What? Oh, and it keeps going back. Ain't nobody that big. I know. Damn! Look at this mug. Damn! He bad as shit. Look at her. You're always doing something stupid.
And so is tomorrow and every day from now until forever.
I'm gonna chase the mirror.
You trying to get punched or what, huh?
Are you kidding me right now? I'm not getting one of the gimmicks over there.
Alright, but chill out.
You come over here talking about some fruit.
Relax, my boy.
Swing. What's up? Swing. What's up? Swing.
Alright, boys. 8 a.m.
Let's go. Go at the same time. You already know. Y'all want to come shopping? I got a shop.
Hey, my boy, why are you interrupting our vlog?
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm trying to tell
Gotta
you.
learn some manners,
Oh,
right?
no, we homies. We Brooklyn.
Yeah,
right?
but we talking to
Hey,
interrupt.
baby, good. Let's go.
Nah, I'm just messing with you, bro. You good?
You like our merch?
Of course,
You with the merch, boys. No, you can also with the merch. Go topnotchgang.com.
We're diversifying more this time.
Tufik, the only thing you're diversing is different alcohol in your stomach.
Yeah, see, I'm
Y'all trying to get sliced up or what?
you sliced up, trying to get popped.
Trying to get sliced up, any of you?
He needs his help fully. I'm trying to watch it. You know that's quality. But you ain't gonna go up and say nothing to nobody like that. Cause motherfuckers will hurt you for that shit. Just saying that, playing around. Motherfucker, he in a bad mood too. Shit. Well, then the fuck you shit up. Can I say movies on YouTube? Yes, you can. You know I do this shit. Shit, I watch some movie shit. So very shit. I want to watch a movie, goddamn motherfucker. Free movies.
Facing straight ahead, so I couldn't see her eyes. She was young, not more than 24. Man, she looked as if she'd just been thrown off the crummiest freight train in the world. Take the knife.
As the conflict in Europe enters its second year, many Americans believe the world is moving closer and closer to World War III. Today we're going to explore the unthinkable. If the United States found itself in a nuclear conflict and was forced to retaliate, which cities would the president target? To answer this question, question, we first need to discuss the concept of mutually assured destruction. Mutual assured destruction, also known as MAD, is a doctrine of military strategy and national security policy, in which a full-scale use of nuclear weapons by two or more opposing sides would cause the complete annihilation of both the attacker and the defender. MAD doctrine is based on the theory of deterrence, which holds that the threat of using nuclear weapons against the enemy prevents the enemy's use of those same weapons. So how many Russian civilians does the United States need to hold at risk to deter Russia from launching a nuclear attack? First, we need to go back to the year 1962. In a November 21st memo to President Kennedy, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara sought to quantify the sufficient number of Russian civilians the United States would need to hold at risk to deter a nuclear attack by Russia. He stated that it's generally agreed that the vital and first objective to be met in full by our strategic nuclear forces is the capability for assured destruction. What amounts in kinds of destruction that we would have to be able to deliver cannot be answered precisely, but it seems to be reasonable to assume that the destruction of, say, 25% of its population, or 55 million people, and more than 2/3 of its industrial capacity would mean the destruction of the Soviet Union as a national society. Such a level of destruction would certainly represent an intolerable punishment to any industrialized nation, and thus should serve as an effective deterrent. Using McNamara's analysis, we can ascertain the amount of Russian civilians the United States would need to hold at risk to deter Russia from launching a first strike. As of 2023, Russia has an estimated population of 146 million people. Under the MAD doctrine, the United States would need to hold at least 25% of its population at risk, or 36.5 million Russians. Russia is currently comprised of 89 regions, within an area of 17.1 square.
Imagine, for a moment, the unimaginable happened. A major city is hit by a nuclear weapon. Now, no number could account for all the devastation that would result. But we can put a number on the deaths. At least we can make an educated guess based on our understanding of what nuclear blasts do to city structures and people. We'll assume the bomb is detonated in the air to maximize the radius of impact, as was done in Japan in 1945. But here we'll use an 800 kiloton warhead, a relatively large bomb in today's arsenals, and 100 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Upon detonation, a fireball as hot as the sun would expand to a radius of 800 meters. Those near the blast would be vaporized. And within a 2-kilometer radius, all buildings would likely be destroyed. And we'll assume that virtually no one survives inside this area. Which, based on population density, would start the death tally at 120,000 people.
That's a lot.
As you move further away from ground zero, estimating deaths becomes more complicated. From as far away as 11 kilometers, the radiant heat from the blast would be strong enough to cause third-degree burns on exposed skin. And as you get closer to the blast, the heat becomes so intense that clothing, even skin, would ignite into flames. That said, most people in the city would be indoors or otherwise sheltered from direct exposure. But the very structures that offered this protection would then become a cause of injury, as debris would rip through buildings and rain down on city streets. As a rough estimate, we can assume that half the people between 2 and 11 kilometers from the blast are killed, from burns, debris, smoke, collapsed buildings, and radiation sickness. Which translates roughly into an additional 500,000 people. Many of these deaths will occur days, even weeks after the attack. Radiation sickness takes about a week to cause death. Now, much of the dust and ash producing the explosion will be dangerously radioactive, especially if it originated near ground zero. And the distance the particles travel will depend on the wind and other factors. Now, since this simulation is of an airburst attack, it will produce produce significantly less radioactive fallout than ground attacks targeting missile silos or bunkers. So we'll go with a relatively small number of deaths outside the 11-kilometer range. If it were a surface blast, the fallout deaths could surpass all other deaths combined, but it's a very difficult number to predict. In theory, radiation deaths can be reduced if people can avoid exposure to the fallout, especially during the critical first few days. Fallout shelters were common during the Cold War, but people rarely build shelters today. And schools no longer practice nuclear war drills. We generally talk less about surviving a nuclear attack. And in a way, it's good that we're less afraid of the bomb now that the Cold War is over. When nations are less on edge, the risk of accidents is arguably reduced. But nuclear weapons remain one of the great threats to humanity. And today, we're entering a new era in nuclear weapon history. Long-standing nuclear arms treaties are being reassessed, and countries big and small face the prospect of new arms races. In part because technology is emerging that may give one side a considerable strategic advantage, notably hypersonic weapons. Current nuclear missiles travel around the Earth at high altitudes, making them visible by radar earlier in their flight. Some hypersonic vehicles travel close to the Earth, through the atmosphere, at least 5 times the speed of sound, giving defending countries far less time to react. And remember that some of the most perilous moments during the Cold War occurred when countries maneuvered to reduce their opponent's reaction time. And the less time countries have to react, the more likely an accident will occur, or a rash judgment. And then you have smaller nukes that blur the line between conventional and nuclear weapons, providing a more slippery path to nuclear escalation. Now, for ordinary citizens, nuclear weapon policy may seem like a complex, even intimidating topic. But leaders often consider public perceptions when making policy. In many countries, voter opinion is an important factor. Whether you believe nuclear weapons have made the world safer or more dangerous, both sides generally agree that the bomb brings an unparalleled risk, and that there are things we can do to reduce the risk, like minimizing how many countries get the bomb, or scaling back Cold War arsenals, or stabilizing technology races, or pledging to never be the first one to strike. Such ideas have often resulted in signed treaties, some of which have held for decades. Some are at risk of expiring, and some just need a final push to become activated. By being steadfast in these efforts, and not walking away from diplomatic achievements, we can continue the work of ensuring that this nightmare simulation never becomes a reality. If you would like to learn about specific policies that can help reduce the risk of nuclear war, you can find links to resources in the video notes.
I saw an aircraft, like a tiny silver drop, entering the sky above Hiroshima. I instantly recognized it as an American plane, as no Japanese aircraft could fly at that altitude at the time. It was just one plane, so I assumed that it was passing by as usual. I was conscious. Itchiness.
I was wiping the desktop. That was when the bomb was dropped.
That bomb was a mess. Look how heavy they are, too. They look heavy. Right.
Now, it took about 45 seconds from the time the bomb left the airplane until it exploded. And I think there wasn't a man in the airplane that wasn't either timing it with his watch or counting or doing something. I was sure the bomb was a dud. I was sure it wasn't going to work.
After falling for 43 seconds, the time and barometric triggers started the firing mechanism. A uranium bullet fired down a barrel into a uranium target. Together, they started a nuclear chain reaction. Solid matter began to come apart, releasing untold quantities of energy.
Yeah, well.
When I was 25, I was a drug-addicted loser. I was depressed, couldn't afford my measly $275 monthly rent, and no one trusted me. Not my family, not even myself. But 4 decades later, I'm living a life I never could have imagined. Look, wherever you are, however old you are, it is not too late to turn things around. I've made it my mission to help 7 billion people on this planet. And I want to help you today by giving you access to a free workshop that will show you how to finally get your money right.
You don't need time. When the flash hit you,